I wasn't supposed to be home that day, but I came back early and caught her in our laundry room, half-dressed, breathless, pressed against the dryer by a janitor from the building next door. His shirt was off. Hers was open. She looked me dead in the eye and laughed. And that laugh? That was the beginning of the end. Thursday, October 12th, 3:17 p.m. I know the exact time because I texted her before I pulled into our driveway. Hey babe, surprise. I'm coming home early. Power outage at work. No response. I figured she was in the shower. Or napping. Or maybe just ignoring me like she'd been doing more often lately. I didn't think anything of it. We'd been off for a few months. Nothing dramatic. Just small things. Cold dinners. Dry kisses. Quiet car rides. But I loved her. I still loved her. I had stopped by the store to pick up her favorite lemon tea. Thought I'd make it up to her somehow. Cook something. Talk. Try. When I walked into the house, it was quiet. Too quiet. I set the bag on the kitchen counter, called her name once. No answer. Then I heard it, faint noise, like a thump. Then another. Then a whisper. Then, laughter. From the laundry room. I walked down the hallway slowly. My heart started speeding up, but my brain still hadn't caught on. I thought maybe she was watching a video. The door was cracked open. I pushed it just an inch further. And that's when I saw it. Her legs, bare, wrapped around a man in dark navy overalls. His back was to me. He smelled like bleach and sweat. There was a tool belt on the floor. A bucket next to the washer. He was the janitor from the building across the alley. She saw me first. And smiled. Not panic. Not guilt. Not even shame. Just amusement. Oh, she said, as the man froze. Well, you're early. I stood there, still holding the tea bag in my hand. Who's that? The man asked, confused. She licked her lips and looked right at me. My husband, she said casually, then turned to him. Don't worry. He won't do anything. He looked at me like he expected me to explode. Or scream. Or punch something. I didn't move. She stepped away from him, pulled her shirt closed, and walked past me like nothing happened. You're too soft to even be angry, she said over her shoulder. That's what makes you safe to cheat on. The janitor gathered his clothes quickly and slipped out the back door. I stayed in that hallway for almost 20 minutes, staring at the washer. And I kept thinking the same thing. She didn't even lie. She didn't even try. I was that predictable, that easy to fool. And she knew it. She always knew it. She didn't leave. After what happened in the laundry room, she didn't run off or try to talk things out. She made tea, with the same lemon bags I bought her. I sat at the kitchen table that night like a statue, my hands trembling on the wood. She sat across from me, scrolled her phone, and asked, Did you at least get the chicken out of the freezer? I didn't answer. She looked up and tilted her head. You're gonna sulk now, huh? I thought you'd be used to disappointment by now. I opened my mouth. I wanted to ask why, or how long, or who else. But nothing came out. She sipped her tea and kept going. Okay, I'll bite, she said with a grin. You want the truth, right? Fine. He wasn't the first. Not even the fifth. She paused to let that sink in. You're just easy, she added. You go to work. You come home. You believe everything I say. I mean, come on. You still thought we were fine. That's actually funny. I still remember how my chest physically hurt at that moment. I could feel it, tight, sharp, deep. But I love you, I whispered. She laughed. Loud. Like it was the funniest thing she'd heard in years. Of course you do, she said. That's your whole personality, isn't it? Loving me while I walk all over you. I stood up slowly. Please, I said. We can fix this. Just tell me what I did wrong. Her smile vanished. And for a second, I thought I saw something. A flicker of pity. But it disappeared as fast as it came. You really don't get it, do you? She walked up to me, real close, and looked me in the eye. It's not about you doing something wrong. It's about me doing better. And guess what? I already did. Then she leaned in and whispered. He actually makes me feel something. Not like you. You just make me feel safe. The word hit harder than any punch. Safe. Like I was a couch she could crash on. I sat back down. She turned off the lights and went to bed. I heard her close the door. Heard the soft click of the lock. She didn't want to be disturbed. And I stayed there until morning, hunched over the kitchen table like a broken piece of furniture. My phone buzzed around 3 a.m. A text from her. Don't make a scene. If you're smart, you'll let it go. But I couldn't. Because no matter what she said, no matter how she laughed, I still believed maybe she'd come around. Maybe she'd wake up and feel guilty. Maybe she'd still love me. I didn't realize yet that guilt doesn't grow where cruelty lives. And she wasn't done yet. Not even close. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She made eggs, toast, even offered me coffee. "I don't want to fight," she said sweetly, placing the mug in front of me. "It's just easier if we stay civil." I didn't respond. I hadn't said a word in almost 14 hours. But my silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was calculation. She left around noon, said she was going to the gym. I knew better, so I followed her. Not closely. I waited 5 minutes, then tracked her using the location-sharing feature she forgot she activated last year when we were trying to trust each other more. She wasn't at the gym. She was at the same building where the janitor worked. I parked across the street and watched her laugh as she knocked on a side door. He let her in. No hug. No kiss. Just comfort. Like this was routine. I didn't get angry this time. I got focused. That night, when she got home, she threw her bag on the couch and asked if I'd done laundry. I nodded. She didn't thank me. I asked if she wanted dinner. She said, "Sure. Nothing greasy, though. I'm watching my shape." While she scrolled TikTok, I stood behind her, watching her reflection in the TV screen. And in that moment, something inside me clicked. She was never going to feel bad. She was never going to say sorry. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She was proud. I started keeping a file. Not on my computer, on paper. Hidden in the garage behind the insulation panel I never finished sealing. I wrote everything. Times. Names. Places. I printed screenshots of her texts. Pulled bank statements. She didn't realize I still had access to our shared account from when we split bills. She'd been sending him money. Not much, but enough to raise eyebrows. I called my cousin in Phoenix. He worked tech support for a legal firm and owed me a favor. He showed me how to retrieve deleted messages from iCloud. That night, I found a voice memo she sent to a friend 2 weeks earlier. "He still thinks I'm going through a phase." Poor guy. I could be sleeping with half the sanitation crew, and he'd still ask if I want tea before bed. I saved that one. I started reading about eviction laws, lease agreements, name removal. I pulled our rental documents and saw something I had completely forgotten. She wasn't on the lease. I checked the contract twice. My name only. That was the first real shift of power I had seen in weeks. She had no legal right to the apartment. No leverage. No backup plan. She thought I was weak because I didn't scream. She thought I was broken because I didn't fight back. But I wasn't broken. I was building. And when I was done, she wouldn't just regret cheating. She'd regret underestimating me. I waited exactly 7 days. 7 days of silence. Of nodding at her fake smiles. Of cooking her meals and washing the clothes she came home in after seeing him. She thought I was healing. I was gathering. On the 8th morning, she left at 9:40 a.m., claimed she was meeting a friend for brunch. Same line she used the last 3 Saturdays. I waited 20 minutes. Then I moved. I pulled out the eviction letter I had drafted 2 days earlier. Had it notarized. The lease was mine. The apartment was legally mine. She wasn't a tenant. She had no protections. I taped the letter to the front door. Then I grabbed her second phone, the one she thought I didn't know about. She kept it hidden in the back of her underwear drawer, wrapped in a sock. I'd cloned it 2 days ago. While she was out, I logged into her email from a burner device. Forwarded myself everything. Then I sent one file to her boss. It was a cropped, timestamped screenshot of her bragging to a friend about hooking up with a client at work to keep the account alive. I didn't even know if it was true, but the message was real. That was enough. Then I posted 2 photos anonymously to a neighborhood forum. One of her with the janitor. Another of her keying someone's car, caught on a street camera 2 months ago. I had the footage. I edited it down to a silent clip. By the time she got back around 12:30 p.m., I was calmly watching TV with my phone in hand. She didn't even notice the letter on the door. "Want anything from the cafe?" she asked casually, setting her purse down. "No," I said, eyes on the screen. "But you might want to check your inbox." She turned. "What do you mean?" I shrugged. "Just a heads up. Things are going to start looking different for you today." She narrowed her eyes. "Did you do something?" "Maybe." She walked to the door, noticed the letter, ripped it down. Her face turned red as she read it. "You're evicting me?" "No," I said. "The building is." She stared at me, jaw clenching. "You're joking. You've got 30 days. She dropped the paper on the floor. "Is this supposed to scare me?" "I'll call my lawyer." "Go ahead," I said. "Also, You might want to check your work email. Something landed in your boss's inbox, too. Her face changed. Eyes wide. Pale. You didn't. I stood up. Looked her in the eye. I told you I was done begging. She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I heard drawers opening, clothes being thrown. 10 minutes later, she stormed out again, phone to her ear, shouting at someone. Probably HR. Probably already too late. She turned to me at the door. You want war, she said. You got it. And then she left. But the silence she left behind? It didn't feel like peace. It felt like a warning. Because I knew this was just round one. And round two? She was going to hit back hard. She disappeared for 3 days. No texts. No calls. No slamming doors. I thought maybe she was rattled. Maybe I hit harder than I realized. But then, on the 4th day, I got a knock at the door. It wasn't her. It was a man in a navy blue suit, holding an envelope. Delivery for Mr. Carson, he said. I signed. Inside the envelope? Cease-and-desist letter. Formal. From a law firm I'd never heard of. Accusing me of defamation, unauthorized distribution of private images, and emotional harassment. There was also a clause about cyber intrusion for accessing her email, even though it was from a shared device on a shared network. Still, it looked scary. Legalese always does. And taped to the back of the letter? A printed screenshot. Of me. In the hallway. Installing a second camera near the entry closet. She had footage. Somehow. Somewhere. I don't even remember setting that up while she was home, but she must have caught it on her own device. Or maybe she got access to my clone. That wasn't the worst part. Later that evening, my manager called. We've received an anonymous complaint, he said, voice tight. Apparently, you've been retaliating against a former partner with professional tools and private data. We're suspending your system access while we investigate. She wasn't trying to argue anymore. She was going for reputation damage. I paced for over an hour after the call. Checked every email. Every folder. She hadn't just covered her tracks. She'd rerouted everything. She'd started a trail, making it look like I was the one losing control. Around midnight, I got a message from an unknown number. Try anything else, and next time it's criminal court. Enjoy your silence. No name. No proof. But it was her. It always was. The next day, my landlord texted. Hey, I'm hearing you've got disputes going on with someone staying in the unit. Just know if there's a police report or legal complaint filed against you, we're allowed to break lease. It's policy. She was 2 moves ahead now. Legal threats. Work pressure. My housing on the line. I was boxed in. I stayed up all night reading. Tenant law. Cyber law. Digital forensics. Emotional abuse statutes. By morning, my head throbbed. But I knew one thing. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to erase me. Rewrite the story so well, no one would even remember who started it. And it was working. Even my sister texted me. Hey, what's going on? She posted something about being afraid to go home. You okay? Afraid? She was afraid? She was back in control. She had flipped the board again. And I was right where she wanted me. Scared. Cornered. Silent. But something in me refused to shut down. Because I realized, if she had to use this much force to suppress me, it meant I was still dangerous to her. I just needed the right opening. And when it came, she'd never see it coming. I didn't eat for 2 days. Didn't sleep more than an hour at a time. My hands shook. My mind ran laps I couldn't control. But in the middle of all that chaos, something started to crystallize. She was fast. Ruthless. Smart. But she made one mistake. She got arrogant. She assumed I'd fold under pressure. That I wouldn't think clearly. That I'd just crumble and disappear. But when the walls close in, that's when I start paying attention. I called a friend from high school, Danny. Used to be a cop, now works as a private investigator for insurance fraud. He owed me from years back when I helped him through a messy divorce. I told him everything. Every single detail. He didn't flinch. Instead, he said, You got her on audio? Text? Anything with clear intent? I sent him the memo of her bragging and the message from the unknown number. He called me back within the hour. That message was sent from her work phone. I traced the IP. It's registered under her company's mobile device management. That alone could get her terminated, maybe even sued. My stomach flipped. He continued. Also, that cease and desist letter she sent? Not enforceable. It was written by a junior associate, not even signed by a senior partner. You can respond with a formal challenge, but don't bother. Just let her think you're scared. I thanked him and asked for one more favor. He agreed. 3 days later, I had a full report. Verified timestamps. A timeline showing that she had accessed my accounts using my saved logins on shared devices. Even better, a screenshot of her text to one of her friends. He has no idea I'm still reading his emails. I check his drafts just to laugh. She confessed to digital trespassing, and I had proof. Next step? I went back to my job's HR team. Didn't plead. Didn't complain. I presented facts. Legal facts. They paused the investigation. By the end of the week, my access was restored. Her anonymous complaint? Gone. Her credibility? Damaged. Then I met with my building's management. I calmly explained the situation. The fake harassment claim. The false fear narrative. I gave them a printed summary of Danny's report attached to a notarized affidavit. 3 days later, they issued a formal notice for her to vacate within 14 business days. Signed. Approved. Final. And I didn't even have to lift my voice. When she got home that night, I was sitting on the couch. She tossed her purse down and said nothing. I slid the envelope across the table. She opened it. Read. Her face? Blank. Is this your little revenge fantasy? She muttered. No, I said. It's not revenge. It's the truth. And the truth doesn't need fantasy. She stood up, eyes burning. You really think this is over? I leaned back. I know it's not. Because I also knew she'd come back harder. That's how she was built. But this time, so was I. She left the apartment quietly the next morning. No yelling. No dramatic scenes. Just a bag over her shoulder and one last line before she closed the door. This isn't checkmate. It's just a new board. I should have known she wasn't running. She was regrouping. The silence lasted 5 days. 5 days where I thought maybe this was the calm after the storm. But on the 6th, everything fell apart. I was sitting in my car during my lunch break, scrolling through my work email, when I saw the subject line. Urgent, internal review escalation. I opened it. My throat went dry. Attached was a formal complaint from a third-party ethics board. It accused me of workplace harassment, digital misconduct, and retaliation against a vulnerable cohabitant. There was even a link to a Dropbox folder full of screenshots. But the messages were fake. I read them one by one, and I could see the formatting was off. She created fake conversations between us, me threatening her, me calling her names, even me saying things I'd never say. They looked real. They were timestamped. They were devastating. My hands shook as I forwarded the message to Danny. He called me back 10 minutes later. She used a generator, he said. There's websites where you can make fake messages and fake threats. But to the untrained eye, they look legit. She's trying to get me fired, I said. She's trying to erase you, he corrected. That night, I went home to a letter taped to my bedroom door. Typed. Cold. Mechanical. I have filed for an emergency hearing. I'm requesting sole possession of the apartment due to safety concerns. If you challenge it, I'll submit the Dropbox to court. My head spun. She wasn't bluffing. And I couldn't just wait for the truth to eventually win. Because in her version of the truth, I was a monster. A controlling, unstable threat. The kind of man people whisper about after he's gone. I sat on the floor for hours that night, staring at nothing, trying to figure out how I got here. How did I go from being the man bringing her lemon tea and cooking her dinner to being the villain in a script I didn't even write? But the worst part? People were buying it. My coworkers stopped talking to me. My own cousin asked, "Hey, is everything okay between you two?" She posted something that didn't sound good. She had the public. She had the sympathy. She had the narrative. And I had what? Truth? Truth doesn't trend. Not without proof. Not without noise. And she knew how to make noise better than anyone I'd ever met. But in her rush to bury me, she made one crucial mistake. She forgot I was still breathing. And I was about to remind her why ghosts are the most dangerous enemies of all. I spent the next 72 hours in total silence. Not weakness. Strategy. She thought I was drowning. Thought I'd panic, lash out, make mistakes. She wanted me loud, because loud is easy to accuse. But I went quiet. And I went deep. I called Danny. Told him I needed something more than just countermeasures. I needed impact. He called in a favor to someone he used to work with, Melissa, a cyber analyst who now freelanced for attorneys. I paid her what little savings I had left. Within a day, she found everything. The fake text threads? She traced the metadata. The Dropbox folder? Created on a burner Gmail account, registered to her name, on a public Wi-Fi network 4 blocks from our apartment. Melissa compiled it all in a digital affidavit. Signed. Verified. Timestamped. We didn't send it to her. Not yet. We sent it to the ethics board that got the original complaint. We didn't scream fraud. We whispered it in a language only professionals understand. Forensics. 3 days later, I got the email. Complaint closed. File sealed. No further action. No apology. But I didn't need one. She did. And she wasn't getting it. Then came the next strike. I had been holding on to something. Something I hadn't even realized I'd saved. Months ago, before the affair, she'd taken out a personal loan using our shared address and my income history to boost the approval. She'd said it was just in case. Emergency money. But the payments? They were coming from our joint account. Quietly. Monthly. I only saw it because I requested 6 months of full statements from the bank. I marched into the bank with a notarized copy of the lease, the account opening form, and Danny's file. 30 minutes later, her name was off the account. The loan? Flagged for review. Her credit? On the brink of default. And she didn't even know yet. But she found out fast. Because the next morning, she stormed into the apartment, phone in hand, eyes wild. What did you do? I sipped my coffee and said nothing. They froze my loan. They closed the card. You think this is funny? No, I said. But I think it's fair. She threw her phone at the couch and pointed at me. You're playing dirty now. I finally looked at her. No. You started the game. I'm just finishing it better. She stood there, breathing heavy. Then she said something that actually made me pause. You really want to destroy me, don't you? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know yet. Did I want revenge? Or did I just want her to feel what it was like to lose control? Either way, I was winning. But I also knew her silence wouldn't last long. And whatever she did next, it wouldn't be legal. It would be personal. And the deeper I hit her, the uglier her next move would be. I came home from work to a dark apartment. No lights. No sound. No note. Just a single flickering message on my answering machine from the landlord's office. We've received an urgent request from your co-resident regarding emergency access to the unit. Please call us back. My stomach tightened. I called. They picked up after the third ring. She said you might be acting unstable, the manager said, carefully choosing her words. We don't want to take sides, but there was a wellness check request, and officers came by earlier. What? I whispered. She gave them a key. Said she was worried. They didn't find anything, but it's in the report now. I hung up. I walked into the bedroom, and I realized what had happened. Everything was gone. All the files. The printed folders. The backup drive. Even the locked cabinet I kept in the corner, pried open. She'd used the police entry to wipe me clean. I rushed to the garage. Same thing. The wall panel I'd tucked papers behind? Empty. She hadn't just taken the fight to court. She'd taken it to my home. My last place of control. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Her voice. Calm. Cold. Tired. You pushed too far. You should have stopped while you had the upper hand. You broke into my private stuff, I said. I had help, she replied. People believe me now. People you used to work with. People who'll testify that you were unraveling. You're lying, I said. But I wasn't sure anymore. I'm not, she replied. You'll see soon. She hung up. The next day, I was served papers. Petition for a restraining order. Full. Long-term. Citing emotional manipulation, financial retaliation, digital abuse. She had signed affidavits from 2 former co-workers of mine. People I once mentored. People I thought respected me. Now they were names on a list saying I had recently become erratic and vengeful. I stared at the papers in my hands for a long time. She'd taken the board again. She was winning. My job quietly reviewing my position. My credit score dropping from the flagged accounts. My reputation vanishing. And for the first time in months, I felt like I had truly lost. But then, a message from an anonymous email. Subject: you don't know what she's hiding. Inside, 1 sentence. Check the county filings under her name. Last 5 years. Civil and business. I stared at the screen. Was this bait? Or was it something else? I dug in. Hard. And what I found made my skin crawl. She wasn't just cheating on me. She wasn't just lying to me. She had been doing this to someone else. Before me. During me. At the same time. Fraud. Identity misuse. Civil settlements sealed quietly. Fake consulting gigs. Disguised income. It was all real. And suddenly, I wasn't the only one who wanted answers. because someone else had tried to take her down before and failed. But they left a trail. And now, I had the map. She'd won, but only because I hadn't pulled the trigger yet. That was about to change. I printed everything. 37 pages of filings, contracts, fake names, closed settlements, and shell payments that traced back to her. All of it legal. All of it real. All of it damaging. It took me 3 hours at the library to organize it into a binder. I labeled it neatly. Pattern of deception. Subject, her name. Then I printed 5 copies. One for the county prosecutor's office. One for the IRS tip line. One for her employer's compliance division. One for the state licensing board. And one for her. That one I hand-delivered. She wasn't home, so I slid it under her door. No letter. No message. Just the binder. At 8:11 p.m. she called me. I let it ring. At 8:16 she sent a text. We need to talk. Please. At 8:34 she showed up at the apartment. I opened the door. She looked different. No makeup. No arrogance. No shield. Just her. Small. Shaking. She stepped inside without asking. Set the binder on the table. I read it, she whispered. All of it. I said nothing. Her voice cracked. You know what happens if this goes public? I do, I replied. Her eyes welled up. Her shoulders collapsed in on themselves like her body couldn't hold the weight anymore. I'll lose my job, she said. My license. Everything I've worked for. The settlements, they were private. If anyone reopens those cases, She didn't finish. I watched her sit down on the floor like her legs gave out. She buried her face in her hands. I didn't mean to ruin you, she said, barely audible. I needed to win. I couldn't be the one left behind again. Again. That word stuck. She'd done this before. But this time, she met someone who didn't break. She looked up at me with swollen eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know it's not enough, but I am. And I'm scared. I've never been this scared in my life. She crawled over to me. Literally. On her knees. Took my hands. Please, she begged. Don't send it. I'll do anything. Just, please. I stared at her. I could have done it. I could have pressed send and ended her professionally, financially, socially. No court would save her. She knew it. And for the first time in all these months, she wasn't playing a role. She was broken, just like I had been. But I didn't want her destroyed. I wanted her aware. So I pulled the binder off the table, tore it clean down the middle. She gasped. You're not going to? No, I said. Not today. She looked at me like she didn't understand. And maybe she didn't. Maybe she never would. But as I stood there, watching the woman who once laughed in my face now kneeling at my feet, I asked myself the only question that really mattered. Then I looked at her, and I said, what would you do in my place?